All right, I see Erica's here. Hey, Erica.
Hi, teacher. How are you?
Fine, fine. Erica, are you a baseball fan?
No, not too much.
Well, just remember today is opening day for baseball in downtown Cincinnati. So
Oh, wow.
yes,
Well, that's cold. I not think in Canada.
they
Maybe in a
will.
couple of days when there was more
Well,
warm.
certainly that's a good time to go is to wait, sure. But if
Yeah.
you're a fan of the Cincinnati Reds, you're going to be downtown today. You're that's
You
what you.
going?
No, I'm not going. I like the
Ah,
Reds, but I'm not crazy. Okay, so yeah, I'm not.
but you ready for the eclipse?
Well, hopefully, I've been practicing. We're going to practice again today. So the big question is where to go.
Ah,
So we'll see.
yes. And I see Indiana? No?
Well, I'm watching the weather everywhere. So I've been looking at the weather from New York all the way to Texas. So we'll see.
Oh, wow.
I'll probably have to sleep in my car a couple days. Who knows?
Wow.
It's that big. Yeah. All
Maybe
right.
you need to go with the rain when camping?
Well, I have a bed in my car, but I'm pretty sure that most of the camping places are full.
Mm,
They said that probably about 40 million people are going to be watching the eclipse from Texas to Vermont. So
wow.
so we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. All I have to do is find a place. That's it. That's all I have to
Yes, it's true.
do. So all right. Well, guys, why don't we go ahead and get started? So, yes, it is Thursday, March 28th. And yes, next week it'll be April. Oh, so hard to believe. This month really flew by. Now, speaking of the United States, now next week, again, we'll talk a little bit more about the eclipse and, again, where the eclipse is going to be. What are some things to do to prepare, especially if you're going to travel to a different place? I was speaking to my students last night, and one of my students said they're going to go somewhere in Ohio to see the eclipse, which I hope the weather will be good, that we can do it close. I don't really want to drive too far, but anyway, we'll talk about that next week. But I did find this interesting page, and I think it's always good to look at things in a different way, look at things in a new way. So I'd like to show you this page really quickly and talk a little bit about looking at information in a different way. So if you see this map here of the United States, this is going to be kind of the beginning of our discussion. So let me find I think where my presentation is. Where is it? Okay, well, where are you? Where are you? All right, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to hide this for just a moment. Okay, so if you look at this map here on the screen, I'm going to explain what this map is showing you, but this is an interesting web page. So on this web page, there are some different maps so that we can see things in a different way. So I thought this would be an interesting moment to talk about. So I'll explain this map here in just a moment. But first, let's go ahead and open the link, and I'll show you some of the maps that are located in this particular page. So it says here, Exploring America, 45 maps. Now we're not going to look at all 45, but 45 maps that might shift your view, that might change your view of the United States. So again, many of my students know, the United States is a very big country. Now, some of you may come from countries that are bigger, but the United States, in terms of size, is a very big country, and it's hard sometimes to understand. For example, the population or the different geography that we have here. Even living in northern Kentucky, here in northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. Cincinnati is very different from the rest of Ohio, right? If you've traveled in other places in Ohio, it's very much like this, right? Very flat. But then you come to Cincinnati and we have hills, right? Same thing for northern Kentucky, right? Northern Kentucky has some hills. But if you go south in Kentucky, it becomes more like, kind of like gentle farmlands. Okay. So again, it's really hard to understand a country until we look at things in a new way. So, for example, this first map I thought was really interesting. This is what we call a topographical map. A topographical map. And what that means is it shows you the different elevations of places. So, for example, if you look at this first map over on the left side, the western part of the United States, you'll notice that we have lots of mountains in the United States. I mean, look at all of those mountains over there. Most of these mountains are in places like Colorado, some in Utah, right? Some in South Dakota, a little bit in New Mexico. But if you look there, it's really amazing to see. Now, as you go back towards the east, right? So as we get closer to where we are here in Kentucky. So for example, Kentucky is kind of right in this area here. This is where we are. You'll start to notice that we have some more mountains, not as big as you see over here in Colorado, but here we have what are called the Appalachian Mountains. So again, Kentucky, eastern Kentucky has mountains and places like that too. Now, I'm interested here to see how many people have been to Colorado. Anybody been to Colorado or Rocky Mountain to see the Rocky Mountains? Anyone been there before? Hikaru, you've been to the Rocky Mountains before?
Oh, yes.
Did you go to Rocky Mountain National Park, or where did you go?
I just went to road trip.
Okay.
And I went to where? Sorry, Denver.
Denver. Okay,
Denver.
sure. Yeah, Denver's right kind of in the middle of the basin of the mountains, so you can definitely see the Rocky Mountains around Denver. Sure. Yeah, and and Erica said she's been to Colorado Springs, which is south of Denver, but is still in the mountains. Yeah, so lots of mountains there. But isn't that an interesting map to look at, to think about the topography, right? The topographical features of the United States. So if you look in the middle of the United States, it's very flat, right? If you look in the middle, this part is called the plains. Okay, this is what we call the plains. And the plains of the United States are very, very flat. But you notice here we have these mountains here, right over here on the left side. Some desert over here in California. If you look over on this part here, some very, deserted sort of places. So it's interesting to think about the size of the country. There is a topography, right? A certain interesting, mountains and things like that. Okay, so that's one interesting map. Okay, now again, we're not going to look at all of the maps here. Here's another interesting map. This map is showing you where all the trees are located in the United States. Now, again, guys, what do you notice? What do you notice about the tree cover? Again, if we think about Kentucky, is probably somewhere in here. Okay, but what do you notice about the trees? What do you see? What do you notice about that map? So the green part is the trees, right? But what do you notice? What do you see? Tiaba, what do you see there?
There is no more tree in the middle.
That's right. Do you remember we called it the plains?
The plains,
right, the plains. Yes. Yeah, so the plains part of the United States, very few trees. It's very much like a flat area. The wind comes off, the wind blows off. So, for example, students often ask, why is Kentucky always getting tornadoes? Why do you see tornadoes? Well, that's because this area here of the United States, this is where sort of tornadoes begin, right? And then as they move east, they kind of meet, right? So you got the cold air from Canada, but then right here in this part of the United States, this is where that warm air comes in from the Gulf of Mexico. So again, that's where you see a lot of the tornadoes in the United States. Yeah, right there in that middle part. So yeah, lots of places where there are trees, but then right in the middle of the United States, no trees. Yeah, no trees at all. So again, lots of beautiful places, but yeah, right in the middle, no trees. So again, we could look at all of these. This is a very interesting map. This is what's going to explain the next map, right? So as you look here in the map, you will notice the states that are in blue all of these states here have a smaller population than one county in California, and that county is Los Angeles County. So again, Los Angeles, the city. Anyone here been to Los Angeles? Anyone visited Los Angeles? Yeah, some of you been. Okay, so Blanca, you've been to Los Angeles?
Yes, I lived there for 7 years.
Yeah. So what do you think? Big city?
Yeah, it's very crowded there.
Yes. Traffic is incredible.
Yes.
So Blanca, did you think when you moved to Kentucky that Los Angeles, the population of Los Angeles, was bigger than the entire state of Kentucky?
Yes. At the beginning, it was so difficult because I was used to that big city and then coming over here to nowhere, like before even like right now it's a lot of buildings built since then.
Yeah.
And right now, like I go to California
Uh-huh.
and I still like I love Kentucky now,
Yeah.
like I adapted to the small place, yes.
It's funny how my students feel either they love living here or they miss the big city. It's usually, there's no middle. It's always they have a choice. They love it or they want to leave. So, yeah. But anyway, guys, isn't this interesting to think that one county in California has more population than all of these states? Now, not together, but each state. So again, Los Angeles County has more people than Colorado. Wow, which is a surprise to me. But again, notice the states that have a bigger population, of course. So for example, New York, right? That's a pretty big state. Of course, Florida, Texas. These are the big states in population. Illinois, right? And even Ohio. Yeah, Ohio has a pretty good sized population. So now let's talk about the map that I showed you just a few moments ago at the beginning of class. What exactly does that map mean? Well, part of the idea is, again, thinking about population. So I'd like to take a moment and look at this map a little more carefully. So when you look at this map, okay, take a look. It says more people live inside the red area than the gray area. So that means, for example, more people live in these red places. If you put them all together, they have more population than the rest of the United States. Now look at that. Isn't that amazing? Look at how the population is kind of distributed, how it's shared. So, for example, what are some things we can learn from this map? What are some things we can learn? For example, where do you see most of the red areas? Where do we see them? Which places? Where do you see them? Which places do we see them? Think about like north, south, east, west. Where do you see most people?
California.
Okay, so in the California. So let's think about it like this. Let's kind of divide the country, for example, into north and south. Okay, so there's the north, and here's the south. So for example, so Blanca, what do you notice? That even in California, what do you notice?
Yeah, there is more people in the south than in the north.
Now, why?
It might be that there is more work
Possibly.
there, or the population, like for example, more Hispanics, more like immigration.
Possibly. That's possible. Yeah, I mean, those are all good guesses. Okay.
Or it might be more hot. I don't know.
I think we're starting to understand the picture. Again, look, we have Texas, right? We have Florida. Now, of course, yes, these are places that immigration we often see more of. That's true. But what about the weather? What do you think, class? What do you think about the weather in these places?
Cool.
Yeah, it's nicer, right? Come on, Tiaba, you lived in Alaska, right?
Yes.
What was the weather like in Alaska?
Terrible.
No.
It was very cold there.
Very cold, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, if you notice here, Tiaba, look at here's Alaska down here.
Mm-hmm.
So you notice only probably the capital right there. That's the only place in Alaska where there's really any population. So
Anchorage? I don't know.
maybe Anchorage, Juneau, probably in that area.
Okay.
My guess is Anchorage, yes.
Mhm.
But still, what I want to show everybody is the population here of the United States. More people live in the southern part of the United States because probably the weather. So in some interesting, it's a very interesting way to look at this. So I think that's something we need to remember too. Yes, the United States is a very big country, but our population is not equal, right, across different states. Many states that are really, really big, right? For example, look up here. We have Montana, right? Right? We've got Montana. We have Idaho. So there's Montana here. This is Idaho right here. Okay. So if you notice, again, not a lot of people live in these areas. Very cold. So even though they're very big, not many people live there. And part of it's probably the weather. Very hard to live in these places. Now, look at Kentucky. Everyone take a look. Let's zoom in here in Kentucky. I'll erase the screen for just a moment. All right, so here's Kentucky right here. Now, guys, do you notice there's 2 places in Kentucky that are red? Do you see that? Look very carefully. There are 2 places in Kentucky that have these red dots. Now, do you know these places in Kentucky? What about this one down here? What place is this? I'll put a number 1 next to it. Anybody know which area this is? What city is there?
Maybe Ohio?
No, city. What city? What's the biggest city in Kentucky, Carmen? Do you know?
I
No.
can go.
Okay, someone was answering and then they got cut off. Try again.
Louisville?
Louisville, that's right. Yeah, Louisville is the biggest city. It's not the capital. Remember, it's not the capital of Kentucky, but it is the biggest city in Kentucky. Okay, and then up here, what do you notice, guys? Right here, there's number 2 there. What's there in number 2?
Northern Kentucky.
It's us right here, the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. So yes, we have a bigger population, of course, than other places. So notice again, bigger than even other places in Kentucky. Now, of course, the colors don't really tell us about the size, right? We don't know exactly how many people are living in these red areas, but the idea is more people live in these areas than they do in the gray areas. And that's, again, because the population of the United States is not equal. If you look carefully at each of these states, probably in some of these states, it's because of the cities. For example, let's take one more look at Illinois. So here's Illinois, right? And if you notice, there's lots of red right up here. Anybody know what city is there in Illinois? It's a pretty big city. Some of you have probably visited this city. Anybody know what city that is in Illinois?
Chicago.
Chicago. How many people have visited Chicago here in the class? Anybody visited Chicago? Okay. Floor, you've been? Okay. Okay. Yeah, Chicago's a big city, isn't it? And not just Chicago, but all of the other little areas next to it, right? That whole area, very big. Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to share this link to this page so that you can look at some of the other maps. But it's a very interesting way. It's a very interesting way to think about how to look at the United States, right? It's a big country, but the population is not very, it's not very equal. Population is very much spread out in many places. So if you think about New York, for example, or you think about Washington, D.C., those places have population, right? Those places here, if I kind of highlight here, Boston, Massachusetts, right? New York and so on, New York City. But really, if you look throughout the rest of the United States, yeah, Los Angeles, for example, San Francisco, up here is Seattle, right? That's got Portland. So again, not a lot of distance between big cities, right? There's Salt Lake City, there's Denver, right? Hey, Carl, you said you were in Denver. I'm sure some of you have been to some of these cities before. So, but anyway, really interesting way at looking at the United States. So I'll share this link with you. You can take a look at some of the other maps, some really, really interesting maps here. For example, here's a map of railroad lines that are no longer being used. They're out of service. So take a look at all of the color there. So the United States has lots of rail lines, but people don't use them that much anymore. So anyway, lots of interesting things to look at. But I thought, that's an interesting way to look at a different country, right? Looking at a different way to talk about how we organize, right? We think about population here in the United States. So, all right. Well, guys, let's go ahead and return back to my presentation. Okay, so I thought we would continue with the idea of looking at things in a new way. So a little bit later, we're going to talk about some expressions that are discussing new perspectives, how to see things in a new way. Then we're going to continue talking about our modals: may, might, can, could, must, and mustn't. We'll do one group activity, and then we'll finish with a breakout activity today. Okay, so again, we were thinking about different ways of looking at life. So I think this is a great question to ask our class because, again, we have people, some people have lived here for a little while, some people not so long. But now, excuse me, now that you have lived in the United States for a little while, what is something that surprised you that you didn't know before? So maybe something you didn't know before you moved here, and then when you moved here, you learned about it, or something that the longer you've lived here, the more surprising it is, or something that kind of is new or changed your mind about something. So take a moment, think about that question, and use the chat or the mic. Share with us what you think. What is something that maybe now that you've lived here a little while, you've got maybe a new way to think about it, or something that surprised you that you didn't know about before? Okay, so who would like to start? Anyone have any thoughts? Now that you've lived here a while, what's something that has surprised you that maybe you didn't know before? Okay, any thoughts, anybody? All right, now Joanna, not too many, explain, what do you mean not many people in the streets? Were you expecting?
Yeah, well, for example, in Mexico, it's really common to go outside and see people walking for maybe,
Okay,
well, maybe it's because it's not common to use the car. There is no longer distances.
gotcha.
So that is not common in my country, and I was so surprised that here is not that common.
So
Um,
well, so for example, are you noticing this like in small towns, big cities? I mean, what's your experience?
Yeah, well, I used to live in a big city,
Okay,
but for example, well, here, maybe it's a little different, but as you can have to use the car for go to the supermarket or
sure.
something like
Okay.
that, maybe
Well,
that's.
well, certainly. I think if you live in a big city, maybe like New York, you're probably able to walk or take public transportation. But for
Yeah.
example, a city like Cincinnati, yeah, you kind of even if you live downtown, you kind of have to drive somewhere to go to the grocery store. So that's true, and especially like on weekends.
Mm,
Cincinnati is a little better now. When I first moved here, you're right. You would go to Cincinnati on a weekend, and it would be empty.
yeah.
Most people would be out doing other things, unless there's a baseball game or a football game. I think now I'm seeing more people downtown, but part of the problem too, Joanna, is living downtown. In Cincinnati, there weren't many affordable places or a lot of places for people to live. I think that's changed. There are more restaurants now. There are more things to do. But I think I agree in general. Like even in places like Florence, our smaller cities, if you need anything, you got to drive. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting thing, and I think a lot of my students probably agree with you. So all right, yeah. So all right, Flora, what have you noticed? You've lived here a little while.
Mr. Young, I am
Yes.
not sure. Yeah, but I have
Go ahead,
some different experience.
Uh-huh.
When I arrived here in 2000, for example, in 2016,
Yeah.
I like to know the place in Cincinnati, the Covington, and Newport, and Kentucky. But I walk. I walk and run around. I live in College Hill.
Right, right.
It's really far,
Yeah.
but I want to when I go display when I well to visit, and then I run or walk around this place. It's almost 2 hours to run, but I love it. And now I don't do anything more, but I love it. Uh,
Julie, I do think that's always a great way to learn about where you live is to get out and walk or run. But I'm guessing you probably found some places where it might have been a little difficult to do that. I mean, did you always find sidewalks or easy places to run or walk?
Now, before I go to work, I check the play I decide to take
Okay.
before. But the problem is not the same because it's too difficult to when you drive in the car.
Mhm.
Now, in downtown city have many parking area,
Yeah.
but it's expensive. It's too
Yes.
expensive.
Yeah.
And the other thing, you can find a good really area for near the place you want to visit.
Right.
And then I prefer to walk or take the bus.
Sure.
Or yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no,
better.
you make a great point, too, Julie. When I first moved here, yeah, parking was a constant problem downtown. I think this is something they have improved, but still, if more people are going to live downtown, they're trying to build more parking areas. So I think that's a good point. But now I think the idea is we need things to keep people in the city. So restaurants, places to go, get groceries, those kinds of things. So that's a great point, though. I like that. Now Tiaba's got a very interesting experience, everyone. So Tiaba lived in Alaska. And so I'm sure your experience is probably even different from everyone else in the class, Tiaba. So guys, if you look in the chat, Tiaba talks about in Alaska, especially during periods of the year where the sun is basically up all day, that'd be pretty hard to sleep. Right. And then on the opposite side at winter time, it gets dark at 2:00. That'd probably be pretty depressing.
I thought I have the bad experience here when the fever cover, but so, Tiago, you are my hero here.
I'm a little jealous, though. I still would love to experience it at least once, but I agree. It sounds pretty hard, Tiago.
Well, I feel like I was having a depression.
I think that's
It
a
was
common
hard.
problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, so let me ask you a quick question. How did you deal with the sun being up all day? Like, what did you do? Wear sunglasses? Keep the house dark? I mean, what did you do?
Just we use a black curtain.
Yeah, blackout curtains. Okay.
Yes.
I can't imagine trying to sleep when it's light outside. So
Yes.
now it's funny, Tia, but I visited Scotland, the country, a few years ago, and I was there in the summer, and it would be light, not daylight, but it would be light until about 11 p.m. So it wasn't like the sun was out, but you could still see, and
Yes.
so it was a little difficult to go to sleep. I would camp, and I would have to find a way to cover my eyes because it was kind of hard. But it's nothing compared to that situation. I mean, that situation, it's daylight for a long time. So, well, there you go, Tiaba. That's very interesting. All right, let's see. Flora, you got something to say?
Yeah, teacher. I surprised here because it's too positive. Yeah, because the immigrants receive hate or receive what is the other word, teacher? Maybe it's racist.
Well, I mean, obviously negative things, maybe racism
Yeah.
or
But
these kinds of
in
things.
the other opposite is when the people receive help. Maybe when you feel bad or you feel sick or I don't know,
Mhm.
you receive attention in the little clinics, for example, Health Point,
Mhm.
or maybe other places, Esperanza Latino.
Sure.
It's a good place for the immigrants.
Well, I think, and Flora, I think you're noticing too. You know, here in this area, and again, I've been in this job now since 1999,
Yeah,
and I've seen that, you know, I don't know if I'd call it a change in attitude, but I would say I've seen, you know, the different ways the community has changed over time. And I think in the beginning, it was mostly, you know, people maybe not paying attention so much. Obviously, September 11th changed a lot of attitudes. You know, I had lots of students from places like Morocco and Mauritania at the time, and that changed, you know, some behaviors and some attitudes, not in very negative ways. So that was my real first experience. You know, I'd only been a teacher for about 2 years, and I got to see that ugly part. You know, I got to see some of that. So it's hard because you're right. I think there are a lot of welcoming people, a lot of very friendly people, but unfortunately, we see some of that too. Now, maybe not as much here in this area, maybe other parts of the United States. So I think that's kind of the difficult thing for a lot of my students to understand too. You know, some places are more welcoming, other places not so much.
yeah, I know, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, but for example, this opportunity for us is very, very good because we 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 have the opportunity uh, speak other language.
Sure.
You are for us. There is a good opportunity for us.
Well, and I think that's one part about that experience that I really liked. I think it's a good thing that we do is to help people in that way. But I do agree with you, Floor. It's this is a very different time in 2024 than it was in 1999. It is very different. So I hope we can still provide these opportunities to students. But it has changed a lot, and I know Blanca probably understands too. She's lived here a while, and you know, we used to work with the church. You know, those have changed. Blanca, do you have any thoughts about that too?
Yes, right. Like I said before, thank you so much for helping. Yeah, and yeah, it's been right now. It's a lot of help. And probably like she said that about the racist, it's always been there, but right now it's more because it's more internet, so there is more
Yeah,
communication.
yeah, and I think it's and there's an expression that says it's, you know, it's easier to spread hate or lies. You know, it's faster to do that than spreading the truth or to spread, you know, those kinds of positive messages. So I think you're right. Social media has really, yeah, really made that much worse.
Yeah, like I've been here for 20 something years in Kentucky.
Hmm.
At the beginning, there was no, like you were going to the store, you cannot find tortillas. I
Right.
don't know if you remember
Oh
that
yeah, I
too.
do.
You cannot find like chiles, bell peppers, or
Yeah,
anything.
right.
Like, yeah, right now you go to the store and it's Hispanics, for example, Walmart, anywhere.
Hmm.
And before, nothing. So
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that's the difference too. Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point. I remember when I first moved here, and we were talking about this with my students, and I would ask them about where, you know, where they would shop, and of course, Jungle Gyms was around at that time, but not, you know, it was far away and so on. But it's funny that Blanca mentions that because in places like Kroger, the Mexican food section would generally be, you know, nacho chips and, and Taco Bell
Yes,
and
yes.
stuff. Yeah,
Even the restaurants, you remember the Chichi's restaurant? And and like it was Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
It wasn't real Mexican food. And
Yeah.
right now it's like tacos everywhere.
Yeah. In fact, you might remember the restaurant Jalapenos.
Yes, yes.
I used to teach the owner of the restaurant long time ago.
See?
And we used to laugh because I'll be honest, I like lots of different foods, but if you looked at the menu at Jalapenos, I mean, some of it was really authentic. I mean, really authentic. Lots of ceviche and nopales and all this stuff, and they'd say, "All right, hey John, why don't you try some of this stuff?" And of course, I would try it, and I'm like, "Can I just have a taco?" So unfortunately, it was a little much for me to take. I tried it. So, but still, I agree, Blanca. I think lots of good things have changed, but yes, unfortunately, social media has caused those things.
Yes.
So, okay, let's see. Erica, you have one more thing to say, and then let's move on.
I don't know. I can say something. I think that my neighbors are more attendant the other country I live.
Yeah.
Here for me is a little bit I go say almost a weird, because normal the American people does that, but my neighbor people, yes, it's more attendant. Everybody do it.
You mean kind of like watching you or paying attention to what?
Yeah, watching everybody.
Okay.
Watching everybody. They is almost, I think sometimes it's almost gossip. It's
Oh, like nosy? You mean like nosy?
gossip?
Gossiping, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, Erica, I'm going to share something with you. I think you're just talking about Kentucky in general.
Oh, wow.
I hate to tell you this, but in Kentucky, we're kind of nosy people. So I think it doesn't matter where you're from. I think that's kind of a common Kentucky.
But I live in almost, I say, in Pennsylvania.
Oh, sure, you lived in different
Virginia, but that knows that way. It's different. People doesn't matter. Maybe they don't know if you live in your house or you die. They don't know.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. So, all right. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for sharing, everybody. I'm sure we could spend more time on the topic, but again, I think what I normally tell my students is you can find nice people anywhere. You can find terrible people anywhere. I do think here in America we have the capacity for good, lots of that. But yes, unfortunately, we do see some of that negative as well. So, but anyway, I do think it is a process, right? We're learning how to live in a new country, and of course our neighbors are learning how to live with us, learning how to live with us as we move here as well. So it's a challenge. Okay, well guys, let's talk about looking at things in a new way. So I have some new expressions for us. You may know some of these expressions already, but let's practice these new expressions this morning. So everybody, let's turn on our microphones and let's say these new expressions together. Okay, so guys, let's say our first one together. A change of heart.
A change of heart.
To make a fresh start. To see from a different angle.
To see from a different angle.
Okay, now you guys can turn off your mics there for a moment. So again, I don't think these are difficult to understand. You may have similar expressions in your language. The first one, a change of heart. I think we know we're talking about, that location in our bodies where we have emotions and feeling. So often a change of heart is when we have a change in feeling or an opinion about something. And usually it's from a less favorable position to a more favorable position. So what I mean is, in the beginning, maybe you disagreed with somebody or disagreed about something, and then something emotional happened to you and you changed to a more agreeable position. You're more in favor of something. Now, that doesn't mean that the thing is good or bad. It just means that you've changed from this position to a more friendly position to a certain idea. So if you look here at these pictures, for example, the first picture there is from one of those sort of Christmas movies. Maybe you've seen them on the TV channel, the Hallmark Channel, right? There's always a man and a woman, and then at first they don't like each other, and then suddenly the woman falls in love or the man fall in love. You know, this is like 99% of all Hallmark movies, right? 99% of all romantic comedies. So usually there's a change of heart, right? Someone changes their mind about somebody. And in fact, if you look at the bottom video, I changed my mind. It's kind of a similar idea. We change our minds, we change our hearts. I think when we have a change of heart, it's probably more emotional, right? We feel more for something. So in some cases, maybe we had a different opinion, and then maybe we watched a movie or somebody was talking to us and told us their story, and then we changed our heart about something. So in this case, that's a very common expression, to go from something that less favorable to more favorable. Okay, now the next one I think is something that maybe we all look for, especially at New Year's, right? At New Year's, we always want to start again. We want to have a new start in life. So to make a fresh start kind of means to start over, right? To seek to have a new beginning. So look at my little penguin friend here, right? It's a new day. It's a fresh start. Now, I don't know, guys, if you wake up every morning thinking the same way, that, oh, today's going to be a good day. It's a fresh start. Maybe yesterday was not so good, but today is a better day. Yeah. Now, of course, if you think this every day, oh, maybe it is time for a change. If every day is a fresh start, maybe it is time to change some things. But still, when we make a fresh start, it basically means, yes, we're looking for a new beginning, right?
I have one souvenir with this phrase
You do?
in my car. Yeah.
So do you look at it every day? Do you think today's a fresh start?
Yes, I have one. It is the first start. The other is enjoying with the friendships, with the happiness. Look the life and the
Yeah.
joy, friendships, friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost kind different situation. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and sometimes those are good messages, good motivational messages. In fact, sometimes people put these kinds of messages maybe around their house, maybe on their refrigerator. Maybe some of you have these motivational things on your in your car or on your refrigerator. They're always good to see. Yeah, I think they're always good to have. Okay, and the last one, I like this last one, especially because I like to take pictures. I like to think about looking at things from a different way. So this expression, to see from a different angle. An angle is like, you see the guy here at the bottom, he's trying to look at, like a movie, look at things in a different way, moving around to a different position or perspective. So sometimes when we have a problem in life, we need to look at things in a different way, right? Not just look at it the same way all the time. So the idea is, when we have a problem, we try to see things from a different angle. We try to look at things in a new way, and especially hoping to find a solution. Because sometimes maybe we just can't find a solution in a simple way or a traditional way. We need to look at things from a different angle. I think this one is always very good. And I think about this all the time. I especially think about, how people looking at things from their point of view. Right? In fact, we have another expression, to try to walk in someone's shoes. Right? Maybe you've heard this expression, right? Be in someone else's shoes. I try to do that a lot. How is this person looking at the world? Maybe if we disagree about something, maybe I need to think about how they see the world. And that's not always easy, is it? It's hard to get outside of our heads. I think that's always difficult. Okay, so our expressions today are a change of heart, to make a fresh start, and finally to see from a different angle. Okay, so once again, we're going to go into the breakout room, and I have some short conversations for you to practice. So the first one's called Making a Change. The second one is At a Sales Meeting. And the third one is, this is a good one, Getting a Puppy. So I thought maybe if we're thinking about getting a dog or a pet, that often will require a change in thinking. Some of you are probably thinking, no way, no way. And maybe you'll change your mind. All right, so those are the three conversations. And then I have 3 questions for you to discuss. All right, well, guys, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and we'll go into the breakout room. Okay, so let's see how the rooms break out here. Okay. All right. All right. I think just about everybody has returned. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Now, we don't have time, of course, to go through all of our answers for every question. So I'd like to do two things. So let's look at question number 2. Imagine you can make a fresh start and choose a completely different career. What career would you choose? Okay. So, guys, right now, everyone go to the chat and tell us, what career would you choose if you could make a fresh start? Now, even if it's maybe not realistic, put your answer in the chat. Okay, so go ahead right now. Let's see. So, everyone, for question number 2, put your answer in the chat. What career are we choosing? Okay. So, Miriam, maybe preschool? Is that
Yes, it's a
okay?
preschool.
Really? Do you have the patience to work with little kids? Are you
I,
sure?
yes, I have an experience, 10 years experience. I have it, but not
Wow.
here. I want to try here.
Well, certainly getting a preschool or elementary education certificate's a good idea. Sure. But I don't know. You must be special because I couldn't do it. I could not do it.
No, I love to spend time with the
Well, that's
kids.
good. I'm glad you do.
Free.
Okay, so maybe that's the balance, Miriam. I like adults. You like kids. So there
But
you
I
go.
have no patience for my own kids.
Well, then just don't bring your own kids to your job. How's that? Give your kids to somebody else to watch. There you go. All right, so I'm looking through here. Okay, so Blanca said be a nurse. Okay. Now I think Carmen, it sounds like you're already in that direction. I think as much as you like to bake and cook, right? All right. Well, Joanna wants to be a bakery chef too. Wow. Maybe we could open a bakery here. You guys can work together. I may have mentioned to some of you, I've had a couple of students who've opened bakeries. So there's one in Covington. Her name is Chaco. So I don't know if anybody has been to Chaco's in Covington, but she is, she was very, very good. And sometimes she would bring bakery stuff to us in class, and maybe that's good that we're not in person anymore, because oh my goodness, we get fat eating all that food. All right, let's see. Tiama said pediatrician. Okay. Got a lot of people working with kids here. Interesting. All right. Okay. Any other career thoughts here? Plastic surgeon. Okay. Interesting. All right. Hikaru had mentioned travel agent. Yeah, I don't know, Hikaru. I think travel agent has probably disappeared as a job, but you could certainly write travel websites, right? Give recommendations. You could still do that. Okay. All right. Julie just listed every possible choice, right? Julie has too many interests. Julie, I have a student who sells houses, real estate. Yeah, so that might be something to think about. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? I'll tell you what. I'll give you my answer in the chat. So there's my answer. Okay. Yeah, so that would not be my job. All right. Okay. And for question, so for question number 3. Now, for question number 3. Now, again, we don't have a lot of time, but I'm curious for question number 3. Could somebody maybe share one recommendation? What do you do when you want to look at things from a different angle? Anybody have a short recommendation they could share with us for number 3? What do you do to try to solve a problem in a different way? Any thoughts? Any recommendations? Nobody solves any problems in the class.
See, like me, like if, for example, if I have a problem with somebody, for example, at work, right?
Okay.
I try to put in their shoes first.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because if I trying to understand the person first, maybe the person have a problem at home or something like that, then I try to understand. Or maybe the person is in medication, maybe they change the medication. So I try to put myself in their shoes, and then I try to understand a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult thing to do, but I think it's a necessary thing to do, because sometimes it's hard to know what people are going through. So I think in way, Blanca, talking to them, trying to see what's going on, I think that's definitely an interesting way to deal with it. Joanna mentioned, be calm, stay positive in the situation. Yeah, these are good recommendations. Flor, what would you say?
Speak always is better. I speak with Blanca about when I was a younger or maybe teenager.
Okay.
I can never speak with my mom, and maybe like a friends, right?
Sure.
And I try to take or have a connection with my teenager right now, because it's important for me speak with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because because I think we don't have this relationship with my mom. Is important for me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important speak and in general with the people.
Well, and Flor, you make a great comment about that, because sometimes it's the people who are most important to us that are often the most difficult to talk to. Yeah, because we have those strong emotions. We have this idea, especially our parents look at us and, they want things for us, right? They want us to do things, and maybe we don't see ourselves in the same way.
Yeah, I know. It's very funny because in this moment, my mom is my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right now is my best friend, but
Okay.
in the other moment, the other mom, moment, my mom, I don't know, my mom don't understand me.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
now part of that is we change too, right? We become more mature, we become adults, so we understand things differently. But certainly I agree with you, Flor. Our relationships aren't going to be the same forever, right? So, but I think that's a good way to think about it. And I like the idea of thinking about what are they thinking. Miriam mentioned patience and understanding. Yeah, I think that's, again, we cannot make any progress if we don't listen to each other, even if we disagree. In fact, we're probably going to disagree, but we still have to listen to each other, right? So, all right. Well, guys, great advice. I like all of them. All right. Well, guys, once again, our expressions today: a change of heart, to make a fresh start, and to see from a different angle. So I hope these were helpful expressions for us. Okay. Now, last class, we introduced the ideas of some more modal verbs like may and might and can and could and must and mustn't. Now, I think really the best way to understand these particular expressions is to practice using them. So we're going to do 2 quick activities. One is going to be here as a group, and then we're going to finish with a quick breakout room activity. So we're going to do this activity here in just a moment. But I'm going to switch over to this activity here. Okay, and the question here is thinking about the meanings of some of these particular expressions. So everyone, hopefully you can see this here on the screen. So I have here 8 sentences or 8 situations. We may not do all 8. We'll probably just do a few. But the question is, what exactly is the intention, the purpose of these particular expressions? So the idea is, if you look here at the top, we have these choices. So, for example, we have offers. Is it an ability to do something? Is it a polite request to do something? Is this a prohibition? Is this talking about an ability to do something in the past? Are we talking about the possibilities of something? So, for example, is it just a possibility or a strong possibility? So the idea here is, as we look at these different situations, let's think about what the person is trying to say to us. So, for example, I'm going to ask different students to read for us, and then we can discuss what do we think the sentence is trying to express. So let's take a look at number 1. I'm going to ask Carmen, would you read number 1 there for us?
Yes. You must drive without wearing a seatbelt. It's against the law.
Okay, so take a look at it again, Carmen. So it says mustn't. Mustn't. Okay. All right. So now looking at our choices up here at the top, we have, is this an offer, an expression of present ability, a request, a prohibition, an ability in the past, or a possibility? So anybody can answer the question, but Carmen, if you have a thought, what do you think?
Prohibition.
A prohibition. So in other words, this is something we should not do, right? In fact, very strongly should not do it. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so you are correct. This would be an example of prohibition, okay? I don't know why that color is there. Maybe that's the last time I used it. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, so now let's take this as an example to kind of start thinking about, because in a moment you're going to talk about some of these ideas. All right, so for example, we mustn't drive without wearing a seatbelt, right? That's illegal. All right, now let's think of some other things that we would use mustn't with in this type of situation. All right, so what are some other things, guys, that we could say we mustn't do in everyday life? Thinking about prohibitions. So, for example, we mustn't smoke at a hospital, right? That would be a bad idea, and in fact, it's probably illegal. All right, what are some other mustn'ts that we should think about?
Spell the mile in the when we driving.
Okay, so say it again. When we drive, we shouldn't. Say it again.
To spell the height, the mile. When.
Oh, you mean to go too fast?
Yeah.
The speed limit. Okay, yeah, the speed limit.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, of course, many people do it, don't they, Julie? Come on. Many of us drive over the speed limit, right? Come on. But you're right. That is a prohibition. All right. Someone else have an example?
You mustn't say bad words at house because it's against the rules.
Wait a minute. This is your house, right? Your rules?
Yes.
What happens if I do, Carmen?
Maybe I'm Mexican. I threw my kids the chancla.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'll be careful next time. Okay. How about this one? Texting and driving. We mustn't drive and text, right? That's a good one. Okay. All right.
In Ohio, I'm sorry. In Ohio, there is a lot that you cannot use the phone when
right.
you're driving.
Yeah, the Bluetooth, you can, in some places you can't even use Bluetooth. But yeah, if you're going to talk on the phone, it has to be hands-free, right? Bluetooth. You mustn't text and drive. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's continue. Let's do a couple more, and then we're going to do a little breakout room activity. So Hikaru, would you read number 2 for us? All right, Hikaru. Yeah, that's okay. Can you read number 2 for us? Can you see it there?
That's my neighbor, Jen, on the side of the road. She must be having car trouble.
Okay, now I see the word must. So again, looking at my choices here. So again, is this an offer, a present ability, a request, prohibition, past ability, strong possibility, or a possibility?
Must be.
So we see Jen on the side of the road. We don't really know exactly what's going on. So the person says she must be having car trouble.
Must means strong, right?
Pretty strong. So what do you think?
Mm, vision. Oh, possible.
Do you think it might be a strong possibility?
Strong. Strong. Strong possibility.
Yeah. Do you think so? So for example, if I see someone on the side of the road, could there be another reason why they're on the side of the road? What could be some other reasons for why they're on the side of the road?
Which one?
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to edit this.
Is it strong possible?
Yeah, I'm trying to change the color of the print. I don't know why it's doing this. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think there's a very strong possibility that this is why she's on the side of the road. Now, there could be other reasons. Yeah, there could be. There could be other reasons why she's on the side of the road, but that's a pretty good possibility, right? Can anyone think of any other possible answers for number 2? What do you think?
Maybe she is not feeling well.
Possibly.
She is not able to drive.
Yeah, but I like the way you said it. Maybe she's feeling sick. We don't really know, right? So, but that doesn't seem like it's a very strong possibility. It's possible she could be sick. But again, when we see people on the side of the road, guys, think about it. When you see people on the side of the road standing outside of their car, it's a pretty good possibility she's having car trouble, right? So in this case, when someone says she must be having car trouble, we're basically making a guess, but we're saying this is a real possibility, right? This is a pretty strong possibility. Okay. All right. Now, let's jump to number 4. So, Miriam, would you like to read number 4 for us?
Yes. Okay.
So right here.
What's the name of?
Pete.
Pete. Okay. Pete's car won't start. His battery might be dead.
Okay. Now, in this case, do we know 100% that his battery is dead? Do we know that? No.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. So in this case, when we say might be, we understand that there could be lots of possible answers. If his car doesn't start, there could be other possible answers. Well, the battery is a good choice, but in this case, the person is saying they don't know 100% for sure. So in this case, when we say they might be, they're telling you, well, we're still not 100% sure, right? So in this case, this would be a possibility, just not the only one. Okay. Now, again, the idea is, as we look through each one, we're thinking about what is the reason, right? And so a lot of modals are talking about what is possible, what is a good choice, is it possible or not? So that's what I want you to think about here. So let's go back to my presentation and the activity we're going to finish up here with this morning, and that is our breakout room activity. So here I've got 6 sentences. And the idea is you and your partner can discuss how you would finish them. So again, number 1 is very similar to what we talked about a few minutes ago, right? But the idea is, as you look at each one, think about what the sentence is trying to say. Is it expressing a possibility? Is it asking for a certain request? The idea is you're talking about your thoughts. Do you think this is a possible thing or not? So that's what I want you to do here in our last activity for the morning. You're going to practice with your partner, and you're going to finish these sentences together. Just talk to each other. How would you finish these sentences? Okay, now again, we're only going to take about 5 or 6 minutes, so try to get through as many as possible. Okay, we're going to do as many as we can, and then when we come back, maybe we'll check a couple of answers. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen. We're going to return to the breakout rooms, same groups. Okay. All right. Let's see, I might change one of the groups here. Okay. All right, guys, so get ready. You're going to join the breakout room, and I'll share the sentences in the activity. Here we go. All right. Okay, guys, I think our group has returned. So did we get through maybe at least number 3? Did most groups get through number 3? Okay, well let's talk about number 3. Let's use number 3 as our discussion real quickly here. So if someone needs help, I might help them if. All right, so how did you guys finish that sentence? I might help them if.
If they let me.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. So maybe some people don't want you to, but if they let you, you might. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Maybe if I have time.
Now that's a good one. Okay. All right.
If I'm able to do it.
There you go. I might help if I'm able to. Okay.
If I have the possibility.
Good. Good. I think that's a good one. Any others? I noticed no one said, I might help them if they offer me some cookies or cake. I see that. Yeah, then I might really help them. Yeah. Miriam, you said.
That's not a help. You're going to get paid with the cookies.
Yeah, but if they offer it to me, then I might. I might. Maybe I'm just not a helpful person. Maybe that's the problem. You guys are much nicer than I am. That's the problem. You all are too friendly. Okay. All right. Well, guys, hopefully you got through. Hopefully you got a chance to finish all of them. Maybe you did. I think it's always fun to see what different people answer with. So again, we're going to continue this topic next week. We're going to keep kind of discussing a little bit more about modals. But let's return to our presentation because basically, again, our time is up. Now, I'll have an activity. I'll have an activity that I've created for you to complete. So I'll send it to you in your email. You'll have about a week to complete it. So you don't have to finish it tomorrow. But the idea is it will be very similar to some of the things we talked about here today. So again, you should see that in the Burlington Messenger or in your email probably this afternoon. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy this beautiful day. It looks beautiful outside. And next time we see each other, it will be April. Hard to believe. All right, guys, take care.
You too. Happy Easter, Mr. John.
That's right. Happy Easter to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care, everybody. And Joanna, your glasses are on the way.